Why am I here as a human being? Why am I living? What is life all about? When I die, where do I go? And you look inside and it has some yellowish, like it produced pus. I don't know what kind of injections those were that they were being given, to someone. Today you've been playing with your friend and they are burying her tomorrow at midday. When you're just burying that one, they are bringing another person. That one has also died. I don't know what happened to all of us. What happened to you? Why did you let them take her? She told me, God decided, like Muslims. Allah decided and took Bit away. But she has gone to heaven. I said, heaven is in the sky, isn't it? But she has gone down and they put her there. Me, I saw. Authenticity is up to that point where you can see things for what they are. And you're no longer running away. You're no longer trying to be good. You're just trying to be you. Going and asking yourself the questions of who am I? Why am I here as a human being? Why am I living? What is life all about? When I die, where do I go? When this body is whatever it is, why do I even fall sick? When you begin asking that, you're coming to the truth of your knowing. And the truth of that knowing is you. Remember there are incidences in the last videos where we talked about Dr. Pat, the director of resuscitation in NYU in USA. They discovered that when someone is dead and they are in the resuscitation center, they are trying to resuscitate them so that they get them back. You see that electric thing that they put on someone to bounce up again and have a pulse. They realized that when these people come back to life, they can narrate everything that happened when they had been pronounced clinically dead. How the people around them were crying, So who is a human being? A human being is consciousness. So life is all about the knowing of, we have this subconscious mind which gives that. It should trigger whatever is subconscious about us to bring it into the experience of being conscious. So the 2% is to help the 98% to be conscious of a human being. If you are following the first video that we talked about. Okay? So this is where an authenticity comes from. You know the truth of your being and you live your truth. And one of the examples, there are even people who live authentically, by the way. When they will live their truth, they will not follow that things are supposed to go this way. It has nothing to do with being violent. But it is about listening to your inner voice and how exactly it is living. It's part of that also. One of the examples I can give you is Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, he reached in court. In the African way of prejudices, where an elder is supposed to be an elder, your wife is supposed to be with you, you're not supposed to divorce, because you're supposed to show the entire world that this world is perfect. Mandela goes to court and says, not once did this woman come to our bedroom. When I'm awake, and the bedroom is a place where you discuss intimate things and you share all kinds of problems, I have been more miserable married to her than I can even ever imagine. And she has made me the loneliest man I can imagine. I'll do anything to get rid of this marriage. That is authenticity for you. Did not bother about what standard, what is there, is going up to the truth of their being. And the truth is, this is my truth. It may not be according to the standard, it may not. That is the smallest way I can demonstrate it. But it doesn't mean that everybody who's saying this is me, I'll not do it, and is becoming stubborn is going to be that. No. Authenticity is up to that point where you can see things for what they are. And you're no longer running away. You're no longer trying to be good. You're just trying to be you. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So I think that is a little bit of an example, although it is deeper than that, but a little bit of an example of what an authentic person would be, without making any excuses. You get it? And then the man also, he wasn't accusing just his ex-wife. He said, no, I don't blame her. She married a man who went away and was like a ghost. So he was also saying the truth about himself. And he was like, this is my truth. You cannot tell me to do something. This is just my truth. Your truth doesn't need a demonstration on City Square. Your truth involves you knowing it and living it. There is all the space in your private life to live that truth. You don't need permission. You don't need to show anybody, this is my truth. The mere fact that you're showing it, it is not. And saying this is my truth, and all these things we have, rights, obligations, good or bad, those are our standards to cope with the human void.
We've gone through the human void, we've gone through an authentic person. Now, where do you get the oomph? What triggered you to have this trend of thinking? Because I have to tell you, this is divergent thinking, right? I call it divergent because it's not your run-of-the-mill kind of thinking and reasoning, and it actually makes sense to the regular me and the listener, and I'm sure you all get the sense. So what brought you to actually single out these topics and to the level of writing a book? They really make sense.
Thank you. But what I've got to say is that just like we've had, everything and everyone has their contribution to this world. And we have already learned, like I said, from scientists who try to explain to us what trauma causes us, how our parents are, and you see that from generation to generation, bad upbringing is actually an example of how we end up being programmed subconsciously to think a certain way. Now, because I was in that field of research and human behavior, I was exposed to trauma as you study it because it's happening to someone and going through that. But then I found that I wasn't part of how you can say that I can say trauma is what has caused me to be my way. Well, trauma has hit me, but I realized that I've always been able to straight away go and say, why is this happening to me? That to me, the problem was the opposite. Whenever something was happening, I was saying, in my personal life, I was saying, what is it behind it that is making me this way? So I also had to undergo therapy as a person. And I tried to understand what were the questions which make me not to give trauma so much importance. Because everybody has gone through trauma, but it doesn't really occur to us, but trauma is not the only contributory factor that makes a human being to be unhappy. Because I think I can say I was from the opposite. I had pretty much a family that many people could have said it had it all, it has everything, but there were things that disturbed me.
Like any family.
I can't say that my father ever beat me this way, or my mother ever beat me that way, or that they were not there, or they didn't provide for me. But there were questions that disturbed me as a human being. So I felt I had a contribution to make by understanding a few things about myself that other people could relate to. Because after all, I'm a human being. And sometimes going into our own darkness is what helps us to relate to the darkness of others. Otherwise, if we don't connect to our own darkness, we are not going to make much sense, to other people, and we are not going to find the connecting point because we are all moving in a void somehow. But as we were growing up, I came to realize what was different and distinct with me. What I discovered is when we were growing up, we grew up both within the city and within the village, going all the time to the village and going. So, and also being in the city, because your father is a prominent one ever since Uganda got independence. In fact, he was never a commoner. He never worked for anybody all his life. He was always a big person, always had bodyguards and all those kinds of things. So we can't say we were really those kinds of children. But life is the same. And this is what most people do not understand. When we were in the village, we were playing around. We have a circle village and a middle compound where all of us as children, play. And I don't know what happened, but I remember something that hit me fast. Maybe you can call it what, but to me, I think it wasn't. It could have been trauma, but it caused me to think differently. I come from a Muslim background. So every home there and in the middle of that compound, there is a small place, some swala, you go and pray. It's a mosque. So behind, in front of that mosque, there is a small compound where we all play. But there are homesteads in this round, like an African circle kind of village. So I don't know what disease came. To date, I'm trying to understand it, but I've never understood it. Each house at least had a minimum of 15 to 20 children. At least, okay, average hours, maybe we could have had 7. But do you know what it means to wake up every day? And today you've been playing with your friend, and they are burying her tomorrow at midday. When you're just burying that one, they are bringing another person, that one has also died. I don't know what happened to all of us. And then they were buried. I don't know how many we buried, but I stopped counting. But I remember that there reached a time when we were about 9 and we remained like 2 in my age group. And we were burying everyone one after another. I couldn't tell at that time whether it was in a period of a month, but I can tell you we would never rest for a week before we bury another person. Playing stopped to be funny because you have nobody to play with. I remained with a playmate called Beatty. Beatty, her mother, we used to call her Jaja Mariam. She was the last wife of my grandfather. My grandfather had passed away, but she was a young wife. So she got married again and gave birth to this Beatty. So we used to call her Jaja, which is grandma, and also Ma, as mother. So we used to call her Jaja Mama, in our way. So that Jaja Mariamu, she gave birth to, which was Mariam actually, she gave birth to this Beat. Beat was my playmate. Beat was, there was something about Beat. We used to stay, like me, I used to stay a lot with my grandmother. And I would stay with my grandmother. And Beat also used to stay. The house next to where we used to stay, where our grandparents used to stay, which is very near our home. So when we would come out, we would play together. Because both of us were with our grandmothers, or our mothers, where the grandparents stayed. So Beatty, when it came to Beat falling sick, I didn't realize actually that she was sick. So they used to tell us, go and play. So one time I come out of my grandmother's place, I was also sick. But apart from feeling weak, I didn't understand that I was sick. I didn't know what exactly was going on. So I get Beat, and they tell us go and play. We go to play. But Beat would go like, like she's in some pain when you're trying to play building and all that. Then you try to get hold of Beat, and she has a deep hole injection on her buttocks. And you look inside and it has some yellowish, like it produced pus. I don't know what kind of injections those were that they were being given, to someone to that degree. And then she would sit this way, and then when she's trying to sit, and she would not be having an underwear, but she had a red maroon dress with a polo neck, but it was just straight, and you would see her body through. But on her face, she looked like the Beat I knew. So one day, they take her, one of our aunties, she's called Amina. She takes her and they say they've taken her to hospital. Then they brought her back. I hadn't played. I went to play with Beat. We played that evening. Children, for as long as they have a bit of energy, even if they have pain,
they play.
They will play. So you won't think that it is anything that is going to stop someone. So I went to Beat. We played. I went to my grandmother's. I slept. Because I was also sleeping at my grandmother's, I was sick also, really badly off, just like Beat. All of us as age mates, we had the same problem. Then in the morning, they tell me that Beat passed away. And that Mama Jaja Mariam had put her body in her heart, with this baby lying on a small mattress of babies, really. But me, I thought she was sleeping. Beatty was very beautiful. Do you know what they call beautiful? Her eyes, her hair was curly. And her eyes were almost greenish, almost brown, and she had a chocolate complexion. She never complained much. She didn't talk much. She didn't do anything much, but she was my playmate because we used to stay at her grandparents' place the same. As soon as you wake up, the first person you're going to see to eat food with and have breakfast is Beat. Now they tell us she's dead. So me, I sat next. The woman cried, the mother of Beat, and said, Asha, come and touch your friend. Your friend is no more. And she was crying and making me touch Beat. Honestly, I thought Beat was going to wake up. Then I was like, but we just played yesterday. what is she doing here? So as if May really thought she was going to wake up, you know. But then I remembered she had wounds, she had what, and I was wondering why she wasn't moving. Because she was, when we were playing, she was, you know, and all that kind. So they started bringing firewood. We were in the village. They cooked cassava for people to eat. Then, as if it was a joke, they carried Beat and folded her in her mother's, you know, dress, traditional dress of Kumesi. And they carried her and took her to the burial ground to bury. For the first time, I peeped underneath that cloth when Muslims were burying to see where they were putting Beat. Someone held her they threw her in, and someone held her from behind, from underneath. Then they put her somewhere inside. So for the first time I could see, because I passed through all the legs as a kid to see what was happening to Beat. Then I came back, I asked this Judge Mariam, what happened to you? Why did you let them take her? She told me, God decided, you know, like Muslims, Allah decided and took Beat away, but she has gone to heaven. I said, heaven is in the sky, isn't it? But she has gone down and they've put her there. Me, I saw. She held me and she said, no, she has gone to heaven. You know, because she's young, all these children go to heaven, and then it disturbed me. I saw how helpless she was. She cried. She stopped even, you know, someone who cries and the voice stops. So I started going to every old person I met and I said, what happened to Beat? What happened to Beat? Why did you bury her? I went to those sheikhs who were praying, and then they said she was a good girl. You also be a good girl and don't become a bad girl. You will also go to heaven. Meanwhile, I started to think if Beat had died, I was next. And then, as I was thinking, I'm next, I also started to feel like I'm not okay. I slept and I could see myself going in a tunnel of too much light. And then I could see myself and say, no, I don't want to go anywhere. And then I came back. But as I gained consciousness, I was looking at, I was hearing there is another lady around. She, you know, like in the village, you have so many mothers. This was a wife of one of our uncles in the village. We used to call her Mama Isma. And she's a very sensitive and emotional woman. So she started coming, oh God, please make this burden of the children we are burying every day stop. We are women, why did we give birth? She started coming crying like that. Let at least this one stay, because we are neither going to our gardens to dig, we are burying all our children. Please God help, let her stay. And then she said, but is Asha still awake? Are we going to do anything, or we are burying her tomorrow? As she started talking like that, I realized they had removed everything in the sitting room. And only my cupboard, like how I saw Beats lying, was the one remaining in the sitting room. So when I got up, life to me became a different thing. What I got from that whole incident is not to believe any of my relatives or parents in whatever they believed. Because they also did not have the answer. They also did not know something. And I could not just follow them blindly. That is where a part of me became someone who started to look out, what is life? Why do people die? What is the meaning of life? Who is a human being? Why are we born? And where? And luckily enough, because I didn't study conventionally, you know, my education included all these things that I talk about, which were not in conventional education system. It helped me because I had all this background to keep asking these questions and to keep finding them. And that is how I come to write this kind of book. Because now I discovered, to me, you could do to me anything, I would not feel. You would do what I would still have the energy to get up and climb. If only I could find, who am I? To me, actually, I did used to ask myself a question of, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I dying? Why? In fact, under the circumstances I was born, it was almost impossible not to have the mindset I had, which asks questions of the void, and then you come out this way. So I can say it was the gift for me that has somehow not led me so much to conform to what I'm told, but to find my own truth and meaning. And then I was in an environment that also encouraged me to look for that. And that is how I personally got to that conviction to try and see the meaning behind things to the point of even writing a book about it. It doesn't mean that I didn't face problems like most people face in trauma. Maybe that could have been that trauma. But me, it triggered, instead of saying that I was looking to someone who treated me badly and this is the reason I got trauma, what faced me first was, what is life? And I remember going one time to my father, and he was saying, aren't you going to go to the mosque? And I told him, have you ever talked to God? Do you know him? Or did he tell you that this is the religion we should be following? Why did he say this religion? Why do other religions exist? And you could say I could have been termed a rebel, but something really had happened to me and I needed answers. And a part of me then started to believe that, you see, these parents of ours that we have, they're also human beings. There is something that joins us together, which is unknowing. But what is it that we do not know? In making reconciliation with my father in particular, he was like, I want you to do one thing. You follow that you see that you're wanting. Study. You will not find the answers here. But we can enable you, educate you, take you to everywhere you can. Make sure you find about those answers and one day write about them. Then I told him, I'm going to find my way. And I don't want it to be because this is what society says, this is what it says it should do. I want to do things from the point of knowing and understanding. But right now, I don't trust you that you know everything I want to know at the moment. And I really want to know if I want to live more. I want to know what is life. What is it all about? He told me I don't have the answers. But if you find them, write about them. And let us all get to know what they are. So to most people who would look at me, they would somehow see me as a rebel, someone who does things in a certain way. But I was like, no.
Divergent, more or less.
Yeah. And I was like, no. You know, there is something everybody doesn't know. But why isn't everybody bothered to know? So that is how I picked, even when it came to how Beat passed away. I was like, what killed her? I was asking everybody because later we went to school, we were learning about the 6 killer diseases, 7 killer diseases, and diphtheria, measles, typhoid, polio, whatever. It wasn't any of those diseases. It only was in a particular kind of age group. So later, as I asked other people, because my life was really full of questions, I wasn't your most enjoyable child. Who you would say you're going to tell something and they nicely go away because you told them something. Something had happened to me, it wasn't usual, and I wasn't going to keep quiet. So I was going to try everything and I was going to ask everything. And if you really liked me, you could just assist me, but you don't stand in my way, because I had to find out. Neither was I going to go and say that I want to die. So I can't say that I was a child who, because of lack of attachment, I was traumatized. You know, I didn't know it. So when you don't know something, you can't miss it really, you know. But I could see, like in a village setting, you can go to this one, they hug you. You can go to this one, someone who's not your blood brother can carry you, you know. In fact, one of the people who's still also someone who's very close to me, like a brother to me, was also the same person we used to live with Beat. In fact, his heart, why he became even more attached to me, he's Elias. He's one of our cousin brothers, but he's my brother, called Elias. He used to stay, the house where he used to stay was just next to where Beat stayed. That is the logic. So we became, you know, close because of that. And then I used to come out and then we see him, he'll give you a sugar cane or a banana, and somehow you look to him as a big brother, you know. So in my way, my experience of Beat is what has more or less produced this person I am today. And many people don't even remember her, but me, I remember her like it was. I'm not a good artist, but I can draw Beat. You know, a beautiful girl with curly hair, chocolate brown skin, you know, just sleeping there like she's a doll, you know, like a doll. That is how she looked like. And I would go like, okay, you know, this is bit. She's someone I could actually draw. So in a way we can say our parents influenced us. Yes, maybe they guide us a bit, but to me, she has been the one guiding light to finding at least a certain degree of acceptance of the human being that I am. And also, she's also the guiding light behind this that I'm bringing out. And if it helps other people, then it is the light bit by bit.
So, Doctor, as we were coming, as we were starting, you were explaining that phase. You talked something about therapy. Well, I think therapy is underrated because in order to find yourself, you actually need some help sometimes. And therapy, I think, is one of them. Doctor, can you throw more light on the importance of therapy sometimes when a person is on that journey of, call it what? Self-discovery. Because it's a lonely road and it's scary, and you know, humans fear what they don't know.
I know. But I think you go to therapy when you are trying to make what is not conscious. Like I had a question. Who am I? I'll be honest with you. Before I even went to what you call formal schooling, I was already asking myself, who am I? Why do we live? Those were questions I had to ask somebody. So when I went for therapy, what it really helped me is because I was not going to live until I had put meaning onto the events and circumstances that had happened to me. That is, by the way, how I describe the human void. Life was not going to make meaning for me to wake up in the morning and go and study, become what everybody is doing. I began off at a road where what was happening to me was not what was happening to everybody. And neither was I saying that what was happening to me was very special, but it was unique to me. So talking to someone who knew about it, I was already seeking answers. And this is where I say meaning comes into life when you begin asking the right questions. And when you think you don't have enough effort, when nobody could take me and it was really a problem. One of the things I remember my father telling my mentors who are taking me in, to the intellectual back, my training that I got. He told them she has a few questions, she needs to be assisted. And it is her condition for working, for staying in this institution. They had to get me a therapist because I really wanted to ask someone who could help me bring in. I had the right questions, but every human being was running away from them to a point that it made me a rebel of saying I'll not listen to anybody. If you really want to listen to me and listen to my question, let us talk. I was this kid who was you couldn't protect me from the hard stuff. Because hard stuff is what I had faced until I learned it. There was going to be no meaning beyond it. So as they started teaching me what it is, they gave me an option and said you can do research on why people fall sick and then try to see the links behind that. And I wrote some papers about it. In fact, I've written most of it in my book, which I've just finished, but it is yet to come out, like maybe around December or January. And when I did that, I could also now understand what happened to Big. I got more interested in people who are sick and trying to see if they are sick, what exactly haven't they done? Why are they sick? I was looking at why are things happening and what is the meaning in their happening. So I did a lot of research that helped the improvement of healthcare and provision of services of health. And I shared most of those. That is the same way I went also into learning about addiction, why rehabilitation centers do not work. And then I discovered it was because of a human void and people running away from themselves. So I went through all these accounts in detail in the book, but that is how therapy really helped. But we are in a place where we think, because we are not asking ourselves questions and we are running away from them, from ourselves.
Very true.
It's the reason we run away from therapy. But we should not. We should ask the questions. It will make our life more meaningful. It will give us the courage to face the things we are not facing. Like I can say, you would have said maybe I would have been scared of death. I was more terrified of living and not knowing what living was all about, because I felt living would have been a useless exercise. Why did I come in life in the first place? If I came in life to play for a few days and then I go off. So it would have not made sense. So I wanted to ask myself those questions. And the more I asked those questions, the more I showed up as authentic. There is nothing about Asha you're going to see today and she's something different tomorrow. It's more or less a consistent thing. You're not going to be surprised that she's thinking this way or doing something the other way. Because there is someone inside who goes into what I would run away from is what I ran to. And I feel that has been my greatest gift in life. Okay.
Well, now, Dr. a little more on the therapy. What is the theme of this therapy? Because I know there's speech therapy, there's body therapy, there is psychiatric therapy. What is the scope of this therapy? I want to help our viewers understand the kind of therapy we're talking about here that triggers the person to go for that void. And
I think the first thing, because we began, the first thing is, how truthful are you to yourself? Is the first question. Because the kind of truth you want to ask yourself, like now I came up with modes of certain modalities of what therapy should be. There are stages or layers to it. The first one is, you get to realize the first stage of therapy should be curtailed, because therapy should always be changing according to the needs of a person. And usually, different therapies and therapists, depending on their experiences and what they've gone through, are able to bring their uniqueness to whatever a type of therapy is. So if someone is choosing someone to go to for therapy, they should pick someone who has a similar experience to whatever questions they want answered in their life. Because until we go through our own darkness, we don't have much to contribute to another person's darkness.
That's so true.
Until we have looked into our own inner void, there is no way we are going to understand another person's void. Now, you will ask me, to date in my life, because of what I've gone through and in fact, what I value in myself and I value in others is authenticity. Not goodness or badness. Because when you're being good, you're having to not be yourself and to conform to what good is. And when you're being a bad person, you're also changing from a certain way to become a particular person, because your inner void, which you do not want to face, has been triggered. So I prefer authenticity and consciousness to being good and nice. So don't just pick someone who's good and nice. Pick an authentic person. Someone who's, for a therapist, someone who's authentic with who they are. Someone who's comfortable with who they are. Whether you like them or don't like them, they are going to be that they are.
It's all you get.
That is it. So when you have an authentic person, they will always look to what is authentic within you, and you'll easily find your way. Otherwise, there can be, it's just like what I keep saying, that the whole world does not need good people. The world just needs conscious and authentic human beings. When you're conscious, you'll know that when I'm going to do this, it's going to have negative effects and they're going to affect me this way. And when you're authentic, you're not going to lie to yourself about what is and isn't. You're going to also be true. So me, in my belief and as a person, maybe you'll say again I'm controversial, but I'm not for good people and bad people.
Divergent.
I am for authentic and conscious people. You know, people who are what they are is what they are. People who are confident to show up as themselves in their own skin, and they own their space and everything that they are. That is me. What I would look for in a therapist. When you have an authentic therapist, you'll go a long way. When you have a good and nice therapist, they will be trying to mold you to a certain level of goodness and badness, which has nothing to do with who you are. Who you are is neither good, is not bad, you're just a human being.
Struggling with your 2%.
Whatever the case. 2% of consciousness.
Of consciousness.
So that is what it is. You know? That is what it is. So when someone is going, you just pick, because a therapist also will know. Given the experience, if the experience is similar, you pick that. But also a therapist may pass you through certain stages. First of all, like I've been talking about the people like Gabor Mate, they've done a very good thing. At least you get to notice things which are within the family matrix programming. And then from there you say, when I'm not told those things that have been programmed due to my upbringing and environment, what am I? When I'm not my job, what am I? When I'm not good or bad, what am I? You know? So they will lead you through all those stages and peel away the layers until you come to yourself. But because we pay more for running away from ourselves, because we fear to go into that unknown. Some of us don't even want to think about death. Others don't even want to be near anyone crying. You know? So because of this, most of us run away. Would rather go, others would rather go to a bar. Others would rather go and date as many men or women as they can find. Others would rather go and eat as much food as they can. Others would rather go and pray non-stop without anything they can hide with. You know, they can hide with this void. But when you're not hiding anything about yourself, that is a good place to begin.
Well, there you have it, viewers. Thank you, Doctor. It's been a splendid talk.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
So viewers, major take-homes, we got to see the void. We got to see what an authentic person or authenticity is. And we also had a hint of the necessity of therapy and what kind of therapy you need. With that in mind, see you next time. I remain Ibrahim Kasasali. The void is what we're kicking out. Have a blessed day.